April next year, handed his letter to the board on Tuesday morning. Let's look at the origin of all the ills at the Kenya Pipeline Company as reported by Rita Tinina.
From the construction of the Kisumu oil jetty, the Mombasa-Nairobi pipeline to procurement, the Kenya Pipeline Company has been under probe. Now, the loss of 11 million litres of fuel in the custody of the company through vandalism or spillage on the main line has thrown the company into the spotlight for the wrong reasons again. And one man has been on the spot, Managing Director Joe Sang. And in a dramatic twist, Sang, who was appointed MD in April 2016, has quit. In a statement, KPC Board of Directors Chairperson John Gumi said the board received and accepted Joe Sang's letter stating that due to personal reasons, he will not be seeking a second term as Managing Director. He quit as the search for answers in the loss of 11 million litres of fuel continued. Oil marketing companies appeared before the National Assembly Committee on Energy.
We basically have agreed we are getting an auditor who is acceptable to all of us, and obviously will have to be acceptable to Kenya Pipeline.
The companies have until the 31st of December to have the forensic audit of stocks completed. They also raised concern over the supply of jet fuel.
We are seeing a lot of people who are supplying product into the planes do not necessarily have all the licenses that are requisite.
They claim they do not have a level playing field with two companies which have been subcontracted by Kenya Airways and Fly 540 to supply jet fuel.
If the brokers, in our view, could have the same license, maybe we'll be playing, or maybe we'll be in the same playing ground.
Same requisite licenses that we have before they are allowed to operate. To the extent that that is the case, we are able to compete.
We are not aware, and Kenya has explained how they entered into that contract with that third party and how they operate. They don't have any equipment, they don't have any premises at the airport, and that is why we did not know.
The oil marketing companies questioned the supply of jet fuel as the Public Investments Committee raised the red flag over the construction of the multi-billion shilling Mombasa-Nairobi pipeline, calling for investigations over how the Kenya Pipeline Company paid the contractor Zakim International despite a delay in putting up the pipeline.
There were initial variations of amounts that had been paid, reaching figures of close to 15 million US dollars.
Energy Cabinet Secretary Charles Geter is on Wednesday scheduled to appear before the Senate Energy Committee over Kenya pipeline audit queries. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
All right, so now let's talk to Steve Biko, a parastatal analyst, just to explain for us much more when it comes to this arrest that has just happened, and is joining us via way of phone. And Mr. Biko, thank you so much for talking to us here on KTN News Center. The first thing is the arrest comes just, let me say, days after Sang tendered in his resignation. Will this help the police when it comes to investigations?
I think what has actually happened is that Sang was given two options by the government. Either give us all the information you have and resign and we'll let you be. And then what happened is that he ended up being played both by the police and by the board, because the board did invite DCI to actually come and do the investigation. And at the end of the day, what we see is there's been a keen push by the government to ensure that all corrupt officials, especially in senior government, are actually handled. And if you look at this arrest, it's coming barely 2 days after the Director of Public Prosecutions appointed high net lawyers to actually be part of his team in terms of prosecuting senior corrupt government officials. So for me, I think what's really happening is that the government is actually deploying an interesting strategy in whereby they're able to corner the people they suspect into cooperating with them, and then letting now the high-end lawyers actually come in and finish the game. But for me, what's happening is this should have happened a long time ago. Kenya Pipeline KPC, has actually been in the news for the longest time. And Sang constantly kept saying that he's innocent, that he has no idea what's going on. But the law of vicarious liability is very simple. If you oversee such an entity, you end up being liable for what your junior officers actually do. And for me, I'm hoping that since the DPP has actually appointed the right lawyers to be able to prosecute such kind of cases, we're going to see the first prosecution to the end of corrupt officials. But unfortunately, yesterday, on Wednesday, we saw Rift Valley lawyers saying that people in the energy sector who are allied to the deputy president are being targeted unfairly in a bid to derail his 2022 bid. But for me, I think if the DPP can be able to focus keenly and ensure that there's no political interference in this, then we can be able to actually get justice, because what is happening at KPC ultimately has been affecting with the end users at the end of the day, because the transportation of corrupted fuel, the transportation of adulterated fuel is actually impacting negatively on the end users. And we've seen what happened in KPC Kisumu, we've seen what's been happening in KPC Mombasa. And at the end of the day, for me, I think the truth is going to come out. And
so,
I would
Mr. Biko,
yes.
Mr. Biko, it's good that you've mentioned that Sang is being arrested after he resigned. Did it have to take the investigative authorities that long? Did they have to wait for him to resign first, then arrest him, and then start investigations?
I think we need to put a few facts in perspective. One, the development at the DPP's office in terms of appointing key high-level attorneys who are actually very instrumental in helping him ensure that once they're in court, the case can proceed to the end. Because I'll give you a good example of what's happening at Kenya Power. We saw the former MD, Mr. Taros, arrested. We saw them being taken to court, and then the case hit a snag because one, documents ended up missing. The DPP's office didn't have enough manpower to be able to handle such a case. So for me, I think what was happening, and we're going to see more high-level arrests now with the DPP being ready and he's gotten the blessing of the president to be able to handle such cases. And also, as I mentioned earlier, the Senate. Senator Mutula was very clear on his Twitter page when he said that Mr. Sang was given two options. Resign, give us all the information and we'll let you be, or hold on to your job and we'll arrest you.
But Mr. Biko, as much as you're saying that Sang was given all these options, resign and we shall not take any action against you, but you've seen he has resigned, but now he has been arrested.
What I'm saying is, when Sang was being given those options, the DPP office was getting ready with the appointments. So what actually has happened is that Sang has been played. And it's the same thing that happened with the Kenya Power bosses. We saw Tarus stepping down. He was arrested, taken to court. So what I think, and given the fact that there's no forensic audit that's been done at KPC, and we've seen that there's been a demand for an audit to be done before 31st of December so that the case can actually be able to proceed in January in court.
So are we trying, sorry for cutting you short, are we looking at a situation whereby Sang was forced to get out of office? He didn't do it willingly as an individual?
Sang was forced out of office. It wasn't a willing, there's no personal reasons. He has a lot more to lose being out of that office than if he had hung on. Because now, with investigators being invited by the board of directors, everything's actually going to come to light. And with the DPP ready with high-level lawyers actually to be able to handle this case. A good example is the current Deputy Chief Justice. And you saw what happened, what played out in court yesterday and the day before yesterday with the new lawyers and Senator Orengo trying to quash the appointment. So a lot is happening. And I think for the first time, our DPP's office in the history of this country is actually going to be strong enough to be able to give Kenyans a high-level prosecution and conviction for justice to be done.
So why, but my question, Mr. Biko, is this. Sang had to resign. He was forced to, what you're saying that he was forced to resign out of office so that investigations can take place. Why was it hard for the government through its investigative agencies to start investigations while Sang was still in office?
What has been happening, investigations have been going on. We remember what happened in Kisumu with water being found in the KPC depot. We've seen the same thing happen in Nairobi and Mombasa. Investigations began then. When there was a public outcry, investigations have been going on behind the scenes. If you're able to trace KPC engagement, online and traditional media for the last 3 months, you've seen that investigations have been going on. There's been a lot of public outcry. We've seen the CS for Energy coming out and saying, oh, we're trying to streamline everything. Things are being done very well. If anyone is caught or if anyone is corrupt, they'll be arrested. So what I believe is investigations were going on behind the scenes as the front line were getting ready to ensure that once the investigations are done, then arrests will be made. And that's what actually happened today with 3 senior KPC employees being arrested. And I expect, my intel tells me that I expect more arrests to be done in the coming days.
So when you talk about you expecting more arrests to be done in the coming days, who are the targets?
We're looking at the Department of Finance. We're looking at more people in the regional managers. We're looking at Kisumu. We're looking at Mombasa. We're looking at Nairobi. We're looking at the procurement office. And for me, what is going to be interesting is not just the arrest, but what will happen in court and which senior counsel is actually going to be appointed to prosecute Sang and his team.
All right, thank you so much, Steve Biko, a parastatal analyst, just trying to, dissect for us this whole situation after details have emerged this morning that Sang has been arrested in connection to the several, scandals that have been witnessed at the Kenya Pipeline Company. And of course, we have a Shadrach